All right, we are back here. Time for the pop culture segment on the podcast. But I said last week it's not going away because sports will be on the thread. Joining me this week, we're going to get to the reality TV at all in a moment. But first, welcome back the winner of the baseball movie draft, according to the Twitter polls, Alan Austin. Alan, how are you?
I am well, and I'm even better now knowing that the fans agree that I have the best list. What an honor.
Yeah, you narrowly edged out John Stanko for the top spot in the baseball draft poll. Sam DeRosa and I tied for third in the poll, but you came out on top here, so congratulations, well-earned win.
I appreciate that, and I think Stanko, as good as his list was, it was brought down by a documentary, as good as documentaries are.
Yeah, I think the Still We Believe pick, I know why he did it, but I think that was probably why he fell behind. I think if he'd taken one more solid movie, he could have pushed past you.
Yeah, a little bit of self-fan service by Mr. Stanko there.
Yeah, I'm also disappointed the Costner fan that did not come out in droves to support me on this poll.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like the Costner demographic maybe not as active on Twitter as you'd hoped.
Yeah, not as active as we'd hope. And I mean, I talked about it at the top of the podcast. It's going to be an emergency podcast coming next week. The reason why pop culture is still going, sports basically they're on a tightrope right now, and baseball might fall right off of this thing.
Yeah, it's not looking good. The testing is not where it needs to be, and I don't think it should be where it needs to be on a social level. And what I mean by that is I feel like the common man's test results should be given just as quick as a sport athlete's, and it's just not. Everything just seems off kilter. Everything just seems out of whack. It almost feels like we are shoehorning sports into society because financial reasons for the owners and the companies, and also because the fans need something to distract themselves. But at the same time, we don't want to make things worse before they get better, and we also don't want to spin our wheels in a disaster situation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sports, I've seen this quote somewhere, I forget who originally said it, but it makes a good point. Sports are a reward for a well-functioning society, and right now, with the way the virus is spreading in this country, we're just not.
Now, and I believe that's a Sean Doolittle quote, but it might be, okay, yeah. Who's always been very at the forefront of social activism and doing what's right. So if a guy like Sean Doolittle is saying this isn't right, I tend to agree with him. And he's on the inside.
Yeah, he's on the inside. He's getting tested every day. He knows, this might not go well. He's very well read, and, I'm going to talk about this more, on the next episode of the pod, doing an emergency episode later this week once we get more details on what the fallout of this is. We're recording on Monday, the day when they find out the Marlins and the Phillies games got postponed tonight because the Marlins have gone from one positive COVID test to about a dozen among the players, plus some coaches. We don't know yet the Phillies are affected. Once we skip more fallout from this, and I think you'll agree with me on this, I think what happens with the Phillies here, I think, is going to be very key to what MLB's next steps are.
100%. And honestly, between you and me, this isn't just me wishful thinking. I've got to think the Phillies will be okay.
Yeah.
I've got to think that we know enough about the disease to know that unless there was any contact with players like sneak hangouts with visiting players, but saying none of that happened and it was strictly on the field gameplay, I've got to think the Phillies will be okay. And that's just me personally. But if anything did go down and, for lack of a better term, spit got swapped, I'm not saying these guys were making out, I'm just saying anything that could have caused the disease to go out and infect another person happened that wasn't on the field, we're in trouble.
Yeah. I think the easy way to put this is the theory that right now that the Marlins go is that they got in Atlanta where they played a exhibition game, I think on maybe Tuesday before the season started, where there was a rain delay and they were all kind of in the dugout together. That I can see that being the hot spot where it all sort of spread from one person to the other, and just the delay in the incubation period probably is what got everyone there. And I highly doubt the Marlins and Phillies are hiding out in dugouts together, so I don't think that would be the issue. The issue would be and I also think shame on MLB for leaving the decision to play on Sunday up to the Marlins. I've said this on top of the show. This was extremely stupid on their part and very reckless, super spread potential event that could put the entire season in jeopardy.
Yeah, and you know what? One team goes down, that's it for everybody. Because the Marlins themselves, as a team, should be quarantined for 2 weeks now, theoretically. So what are you going to do? You're going to have a Shane Falco replacement situation for one team? I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
No, I mean, I think the thing they're holding to right now as of recording times, they're saying, okay, we'll test everybody again today, see who comes out positive, take whoever is negative back with us to play, and then bring up whoever we need from the taxi squad. But At what point does it come to sham? Because you just have like basically the entire Marlins starting lineup out, and you're replacing with like B and C squad players.
Right, and it doesn't matter if you're the Marlins or Yankees. No team should have to do that.
No, I also do.
So,
I think the skeptic in me also says, you know what, this is a kind of a case where like, if this was the New York Yankees this happened to, I think we'd be a lot quicker to drop the hammer than we would if it was the Marlins.
yeah, it's a little biased for sure. But I mean, as of this recording, noon on Monday, July 27th, I am not feeling great about the hopes of a continued MLB season.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I said when this thing started, I said, I think we're getting the starting line. I said about 40% we get to the finish. I think that was a little high.
We're only in the first weekend, and we're like, we are facing a uncertain future, to say the least. So it's not looking good.
It is not looking good. Again, bonus episode of the podcast coming this week. I'm going to be talking to our legal guy, Phil Freya. And once we get more information about this, we will put something out there. But we'll get to why you're here today. We'll talk about the pop culture a little bit. And I have to say, as much uncertainty the sports have right now, I think TV in general has a much more uncertain future.
Well, you got to think about productions. What the amount of people that it takes to make a movie and a TV show is so many. You know, the common viewer doesn't realize that even in an intimate scene, there are, you know, about 10 people behind the camera all doing something. So you're going to have to do skeleton crews for productions, and for big budget blockbuster movies, you just can't do that. So it's going to be very interesting to see when productions pick up again. And honestly, I don't think they will until the new year.
Yeah, I mean, you're somebody who has a little bit of background in the entertainment industry, so that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because obviously, like, we've heard talk some of these shows that film in Canada with the virus is much better control are trying to get back to work soon, but, like, a lot of this industry is in LA, which is its own disaster situation with the virus right now, and, like, a lot of these shows, like, when they're supposed to come back in late September, early October, like, they would have to be filming, like, in June to get ready for that. And nothing has started yet, so not that nothing will happen until at least a month from now. So if you're a fan of, like, an NCIS, you're a fan of, like, not Empire, I want to think of good network, like, another good, like, network drama, say, like, Law & Order SVU, like, you're not seeing your show on time.
That. Yeah, I would say that calendar-wise, you're not looking at a pickup, new episodes of shows, unless they're already in the can, but let's say they're not, until mid to late 21, the earliest. Yeah. The earliest. And then for all your big-budget movies that are looking to get back on track, 2022 is going to be a big year, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, everything, because, like, I think next year, 21 is going to be sort of like, whatever was supposed to come out in 20 is going to come out in 21 for the most part, I feel like. So
right. And then whatever's supposed to come out, it'll go on and on until about 2024 when everything catches up to itself.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, because I do feel like the CW, I know, basically said their entire fall lineup is going to go to January, which I think that's a more realistic timetable than, like, some of these broadcast networks like CBS, NBC, and ABC basis. Okay, here's our lineup. We don't know when it's coming, but this is what we're going to start with, and they're not going to have much.
Absolutely. And you got to also keep in mind that it doesn't take one day to film something. No. It could take multiple weeks, months, and you pile that on. And you got to remember one other thing, which is actor, producer, director, writer scheduling conflicts for the future. Because you blocked out this time in 2020 to film something, and then you move on to the next and the next. And before you know it, projects are going to have to recast. Projects are going to have to rehire. It's going to be a storm of confusion, uncertainty, and rearranging that most productions are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I think the only things you're going to see right now are whatever sports we do manage to pull off. Like, I think right now the safest bets are the bubble sports, so the NBA, the NHL, I think you're going to see quite a bit of, assuming that they're able to keep it safe.
Yeah, I don't think UFC is going anywhere either.
Yeah, UFC won't either. You'll get golf. That's been managing to go on. That's a much easier operation to run. But, like, NFL supposed to be in there. We'll see. I'm skeptical right now, and I think the NFL is a little more skeptical after what happened with the Marlins. But you're going to get plenty and plenty and plenty of reality TV if you want it.
And let's keep in mind the vaccine. If the vaccine comes and it's good and it can be mass produced, that's the game changer. But that's an uncertainty.
Yeah, we don't know when that's coming. That could come in January. Right. That could come in next June. We don't know.
Right, absolutely. And I feel bad for Dr. Fauci because some people complain about his flip flopping, but he can only go based on what he's got. And
Yeah.
he's not going to go a day without trying to inform. So I have no problem with the flip flopping because nobody knows anything for certain anyway. So I'd rather be kept up to date on what everyone's thinking than nothing at all.
Yeah, that's true. And we'll go to the reality TV bubble a bit because I looked at, I mean, Fox's lineup is heavy on reality shows. CBS has a bunch in production right now. And one of the big things that they're trying to get off the ground right now is they just announced last week that your favorite show, Big Brother, is having an all-star season starting on August 5th. So you want to dive a little bit into that and tell me, like, what's got you intrigued about this production setup here?
Well, Big Brother is not one of my, it is my favorite reality show, and it's one of my favorite shows overall. It's a great, do you want me to give any backstory on the show as a whole?
Sure.
All right, well, Big Brother it's based off, and they even say it in the end credits that there's no affiliation, so it's not really based off, but the idea of Big Brother from George Orwell's 1984, where the government's always watching you. So, with that concept in mind, you have a house of 16 contestants. A camera is always watching them. The live feeds, as they call them, broadcast the every move of these contestants on the internet. And what these contestants must do are face challenges, both physical and mental, form allegiances and alliances, and try to be the last person standing after a house eviction every week. It's great fun. The competitions are balanced, and I would say they are wildly imaginative, although they get repetitive year after year, but they are still good quality competitions. You don't have to be a physical beast to win the game, and you don't have to be a mental juggernaut to win the game. It's just based on social and mental and physical abilities. It's a wonderfully fun competition. It does lead to some intense situations, and it's not necessarily the most feel-good show, but not in a bad way. It's just a very intense competitive show, and I love it.
Yeah, and I also point out, your description is all true, but not necessarily the way that CBS markets the show. CBS does like to focus on, there are all these wacky people living in their house together. They're doing ridiculous competitions where they're getting hit with big balls and they're getting slimed, and that's what they want to tell you about. But it's a much deeper show than that.
Oh, for sure. If you're thinking about it the way CBS markets it, you're looking at half the house are recruited models that they just bring on the show so that the models can get Instagram and Twitter followers after and can launch products. But then you've got the 8 who really love the show and the fans. And they hit the archetypes every year. And my favorite archetype, who I'm always a homer for, is the old guy character or the old lady character. And by old, I'm talking in their 40s and 50s here. But that's the way the show is. So you're going to have the 8 model types with that deliver their diary room sessions like scripted robots. But you're also going to have the characters who love the show and know what they're getting into. And those are the characters that I always cling to. So yes, you're right. CBS would like you to think here are a bunch of hot people doing wacky things, but really it's a social experiment.
It is, and this is also the second all-star season of the show's history. The last one came back in 2006. They brought people back a couple of times every now and then, but this is the first time since they've done a full-blown all-stars. And I know you and I were talking off the air. We thought there might be a cast reveal today. I think that's been pushed back a little bit, but who are some people who are rumored to be in the mix that you were intrigued about?
Well, you got to remember one thing in this COVID society. All-stars equates to who can we get?
Yes.
So you're not necessarily getting all-stars, and Big Brother all-stars don't necessarily need to be people who went far in the game. To me, a Big Brother all-star, it means more of a fan favorite type or a fan hated who is good at the game type. So big personality. To me, that's what a Big Brother all-star is, a big personality for better or worse. And maybe arguably one of the biggest Big Brother personalities, Paul from seasons 18 and 19 is rumored to be in this cast. And if you're thinking season 18 Paul, you're like, wow, there's a guy who had a big personality, worked hard, and probably should have won the game. And if you're thinking season 19 Paul, you're like the worst person that ever lived in the Big Brother house. So that's one giant personality. And if you mix him with his season 19 cohort, Josh Martinez, Paul and Josh, if they come back into the house, that for sure is going to be must-see TV, whether it be for good or bad.
Yeah, I think he's someone who could be interesting if he gets back in there. From season 20, Tyler, I think, is a combination of a good player and entertaining on TV. And in terms of just somebody who's not great at the game but would be phenomenal television. Davon from season 17 and 18, always willing to mix it up with people, creates very entertaining television. So she's somebody I'm always happy when they bring her on the show.
Mama Day is the best DR they have, the best at diary rooms. And Tyler is unbelievable. Tyler's one of my favorite players ever. And Tyler, like you said, is a mix of both, entertaining and good at the game. And one America's favorite, which you usually don't see from that archetype, which is he was the dumb stonery type, even though he didn't play that at all. It's almost like in his intro video, they're like, here's the dumb surfer of the season. And then once you get in the game, he's the most calculated one as the group, which I loved. I loved the misdirection there, whether CBS meant to do it or not. So I'm a big fan of Tyler.
Yeah, and one thing I think that makes this show very appealing for CBS is obviously, this show airs multiple nights a week. So, they have a 2-hour live premiere, which I think you want to talk about that for a second, how unprecedented it is that they're going to usually what the show does is, they send everybody in the house, they play the game for a week, then they show you the first week basically on the episodes. This time they're dropping everybody in the show as the show starts, which is highly unusual.
Yeah, live feeds don't usually kick in until a week or so after the house guests have moved in. First time ever, a live move in. And I think they're able to get away with that because there's already a built-in audience because the players are celebrities at this point, at least Big Brother celebrities. So you don't have to worry about the ratings. The ratings will be there. People are itching for this, especially the reality show crowd, because Big Brother has a huge audience. So to have the live move in is pretty great, and it's pretty smart on CBS's part because you don't need to do anything else. This is just a shoe-in that will work. It
will, and plus, this is sort of as I like to call it for you, as somebody who's been in the industry, you probably wear this. I call it scheduling spackle, where this is a show that airs 3 nights a week. So when CBS does not have NCIS ready to go, or I want to say SWAT ready to go, you can stick an episode on CBS, CBS 3 nights a week and have 3 nights covered with just Big Brother episodes of original content.
Not to mention, they literally have almost 24 hours a day of footage. They can scramble together 2-hour episodes every time if they need to. It's probably not going to be great, but they could do it. So it's really a thing that CBS really hopes will stick. And I know you're going to get into it, but the bubble aspect. But before we do that, I just want to mention that the casting rumors have an interesting mix of old and new, so to speak. And if Janelle comes back for a 4th time, that's something to watch.
Yeah, they do have a good mix of people in there. There's some people I've seen on the rumor list. I'm not going to get too deep into the rabbit hole here where you're like, why the hell are they here? They make no sense why they're invited. And then you see something oh, cool, I can't wait to see that person again.
Absolutely. And of course, unfortunately, after all the rumors, my favorite Big Brother player of all time, Dan Giesling, not coming back.
Yeah, well, that one, I know, he likes to troll the Twitter audience. I know he had rumors going on, am I going back? Am I not? But even without Dan, I think the messy pregame stuff, you can follow Big Brother Twitter for all the latest on that. This could be a very sloppy season, lots of fighting, lots of craziness. That can make it very entertaining television.
Absolutely, and I hope for nothing less than that. Now, I teased it. Do you want to get into how they're going to try and make this season work?
Yeah, I think to put this in broad terms, basically, for the sports fans, the NBA and the NHL, they're doing bubbles around the whole atmosphere. So players go in there, the league officials go in there, coaches go in there, nobody leaves. The similar idea for the production, where they basically have RVs set up on set. They're building social pods where people are going to work socially distance from each other. You have crews staying on site. So basically, they're building a Big Brother bubble outside the actual house. They're building a sort of a crew bubble too to ensure that they can work safely in LA, which is still a virus hotspot.
Yeah, and they're gonna cycle the crew in and out, so they only work weeks at a time, which is smart because that's a tough production to be crew on, and it's gonna be fine. And there's no better show than Big Brother. If everyone is quarantined and they're all virus free and they go in the house, there should be no issues with the cast whatsoever until the end of production when they go back home.
Yeah, the cast has always been the thing. The issue that happened, I think, which also happened to the Canadians, where they had to stop in the middle, was that the crew was the problem because the crew goes in, they build competitions in the backyard for them to play, they deliver food and stuff like that. those are things that have to be thought out carefully. And I think something like this gives it a better chance to succeed than the Canadian version had.
Absolutely. And if you got to think about this too, you can have people watching the security camera footage if they work from home. Like they don't need to be in a studio. So the only people you really have to worry about are the people who interact with the housemates. And if you can guarantee they are quarantined as well, you're good to go.
The other interesting question about that whole bubble is what role is Julie Chen moving as play? She's the host of the show. She usually only shows up on eviction night when they bring the guests out for interviews. Like, I think you could still have her show up and sort of like, okay, Julie Chen's on this side of the stage. The person who got voted out is on this side of the stage. They talk and then they leave without interacting with Julie. I think that could still happen.
It could, but I think we're going to see a Zoom eviction interview.
Yeah. You think like they'll have the Julie on Zoom and then the contestant on stage talking to Julie?
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that too. I don't know how they're going to do it. I think they might have Julie there on like the first night and they may not have her back on the actual set until the finale.
I think it'll be a case where she will not be there until the finale.
Interesting.
I just don't think they want to set a weird precedent. I think they want to look like they're being as cautious as possible, no unnecessary. You know what I mean? I don't think they want to give the fans or critics any reason to say they're being reckless, more so than they already are accused of.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm just curious how long they'll let the season go. Usually a season runs about 3 months. So if they're starting in August, you think maybe that they would probably go to like late October to keep the math intact. And they're hoping maybe by November sweeps they have some of their shows ready to go. I think that's the CBS's golden hope here.
Yeah, I don't think they pushed it back necessarily because of the cast. I think they did it scheduling-wise for themselves.
Yeah, because I think in case another show we're going to talk about, The Amazing Race, originally supposed to premiere in May after Survivor ended, and they said, you know what, we're going to hold off on this, wait for fall, save it for fall, and that would turn out to be a very smart decision because that's one of the few things that's guaranteed to have original programming in the fall.
Yeah, and that's another one that they want to probably save it because who knows when they'll be able to pull it off again.
Yeah, because right now, like, let's go there next, because I think you're going to have Big Brother failure. Amazing Race 32. Obviously, the show itself, like, they were the first production actually had to stop because they were filming their 33rd season in March. They got through 3 legs, had to stop because they were in Europe and the coronavirus was really spreading. They sent everybody home. Season 32 was filmed back in 2018. They've been sitting in the can for about 2 years. Now they will finally release it to the world, and this is the one show you can safely guarantee will be going from start to finish in the fall.
Yeah, nothing's going to stop this. It's interesting because we're going to go from things like season 30. This isn't really that deep a thought, but we're going to go things that were in the can since 2018 to the future when things are going to be released ASAP. Yeah. Like there is going to be a rush on production and it's going to keep going and going and going. And anything that's in the can is from Netflix, from all these companies, is going to be released soon because they got to fill time. They got to get new content out there. So it's very interesting. And doesn't Tiger King feel like years ago at this point?
Oh my God, it does. Like it's so hard to like. Even The Last Dance feels like it was a millennium ago.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, Amazing Race should be good to go, and that'll definitely, it'll be super entertaining. Give us something to watch in the meantime.
Yeah, I know. Are you a big Amazing Race guy?
No, but that is something I want to get into. My fiance has recently said that she'd love to be on it, so I've got to do my research and watch it. So I will be tuned in to this upcoming season.
Yeah, I will say it's definitely a fun show. I always have loved it. Phil Kogan's a fantastic host, and like this show, I think it's going to be very interesting to see its reception because this is a show that CBS has not really respected much the last couple of years. Kind of say, okay, like it has its solid ratings. It's not a big like blockbuster like Survivor is for them. Where they kind of save it, they'll film a season like, okay, like when something flops for us, we'll put the Amazing Race on to stabilize things. Now Amazing Race saying, okay, you're the star of the fall for us. Go.
Yeah, you've got the brass ring now. You've got the baton.
Yeah.
Time to run with it. And Phil Kogan, he has that other new show, which I know you're a huge fan of, Tough as Nails.
Yes, Tough as Nails is a fantastic show. And I mean, for those who have not watched, this was filmed a while back. This is basically focusing on like a bunch of America's essential workers competing to show their toughness. And it's like, this is a great show, very racially diverse as well. You have a lot of minorities, people of color on this show. You have a wide variety of ages. This is not your Big Brother, half the cast is models. These are real hardworking Americans. I think that appeals to a lot of people.
I have to check it out. I know you've been raving about it. I haven't had the opportunity, but it is on my watch list.
Yeah, you need to check it out. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the tasks are very interesting the way they do it. Like the thing that's intriguing about this show is, and you know, as a reality guy, a lot of the formula of the reality show is, okay, here's a group of 12 people. Every episode we kick somebody off. But they do is a little different, where there's a team-based competition, individual competition. At the end of every episode, somebody is out of the individual game where they can win $200,000. But they are still on teams, so the characters are still on the episodes, even if they can't win the big prize. So like they're still playing the team half of the game. So
so you never lose the people you like.
You don't lose the people you like. Like last week on the show, the roofer Lee, who I think is like a 60-year-old tough as nails guy who everybody loves, he lost the individual competition, but he's still playing on his team, so he'll be on the show until the end of the season.
Well, that's good. So is there a social aspect to the game where you want to make your teammates like you so they try harder, or no?
Not really, because a lot of it's like sort of like focusing on how these interact with each other to get these tasks done, and like that's where the drama comes in. Because it's like some people are experiencing one thing and some people are not in others, and then seeing how they work together is the challenge of the show in terms of the team aspect.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, it's highly compelling. So I think it's like 4 episodes at the moment, and again, Phil Cohen a little kooky. He's trying to like be the host on like. He tends to go a little cliche heavy on this show, but the characters themselves, the people they cast, very interesting group of people.
Awesome.
Like they have to do tasks like lay rails at a train station and pull a caboose as a team about like 500 feet to like get them to win a task, stuff like that. Building like a fence on a farm, like disassembling cars, like all kinds of like stuff like that is the tasks of the teams.
Well, it sounds awesome.
It's very entertaining. I will say Amazing Race, #1 on my list this fall. I cannot wait for that. And if you're a reality TV fan, I think aside from Survivor, which I have my own issues with, the fact that they're being so stubborn with how they're going to make the show, like anything reality based, I mean, there's how they're going to get Masked Singer back going again soon on Fox. The Bachelorette's filming soon. Love Island on CBS, another one we haven't talked about. They're filming soon. So if you like reality TV, this is the time for you.
Absolutely. And game shows.
Game shows. I'm going to talk about more game shows in the future. Those are the things that like are very quick to turn around. So like you could film like I don't remember. Did you hear the story about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? The celebrity edition, how it filmed before the pandemic ended.
No, but I'm sure they filmed a bunch in a day.
So what happened with that is like right before the shutdown happened, I think Jimmy Kimmel's like edition was there. They got rid of the audience. They played with only with him, the host, like the contestant, and their celebrity helper. So like they had basically 3 people on the stage, and they had the crew around the background. They filmed all 9 of their episodes in about a 3-day span. And right after that, the California shutdown order went in, so they barely got their season through.
Yeah, I definitely knew they filmed a bunch in a short amount of time. And California, it's really tough when that's one of your hot spots for main productions. California's tough, but reality shows tend to be off the grid, so to speak, and can film anywhere. Now, we said Big Brother's filming in LA, but there are other shows that could make it work if they go to, places that are handling the coronavirus better, so to speak.
Yeah, and like the game shows, like I'll be doing more on the game shows. Like next week I had Pecan Star talk about Holy Moly, that was already pre-filmed. ABC has had a lot of game shows on this summer. They stopped airing new episodes a couple of weeks back. I know they're trying to hold some inventory in case they need to air some in the fall. But like those, you easily say, okay, like let's get our hosts, let's get our crew here. Let's film like 8 episodes over 3 days, and then we'll just like space them out, and then we can have them ready to go if we need like spackle for the schedule.
Yeah. Yep, because you can do it. You can get a hotel, store everybody in it, make sure they're quarantined, film, and then send everyone on their way.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you'll see some of these game shows. I think like the Supermarket Sweep reboot with Leslie Jones and so I think that they'll figure out a way to get that produced and get that on the air. Shark Tank is intriguing because again, it's a reality show, so I think that could be interesting to see how they produce that. They could do a bunch of pitches in like a week and get everybody out of town. Like I think those are things that you could see starting to launch up.
100%.
And anything animation does not apply because stuff like Family Guy and The Simpsons, they can do that all remote.
Absolutely.
So again, if you're an NCIS fan, don't expect your fall season to start on time. Family Guy will start on time. Your game shows will be there, and your reality shows will be there. So that's the outlook on TV, I think, for pretty much the rest of 2020.
Yeah, and once Big Brother hits, I'd love to come on and kind of break down the season as it goes with you.
Yeah, definitely keep that in mind. Like I said, pop culture's still going, so we're going to keep this bit alive until we have some sort of actual normalcy in sports, not this teeter-totter landscape where, like, we have potential for an outbreak threatening the baseball season after 4 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If the worst happens and we don't have even reality TV anymore, we can always dive into old Sunday newspaper cartoons and break those down.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we don't have to get that far. I will say, though, one thing I will point out, though, in terms of like the will of these reality shows to get back on the air, as a Survivor super fan, I'm very disappointed that show is not trying to be more creative in how they get their show off the ground.
What do you mean? What's going on?
Basically, obviously, they film in Fiji most of the time. They basically said they got pulled from the fall schedule. They're not going to be ready on time. And their thing is, we're committed to Fiji. We're going to make it work in Fiji. But that involves them bringing crew from all over the country to all over the world to Fiji. I don't know when it's going to happen. And whereas, like, Love Island, which also films in Fiji, is bringing its entire show to Nevada for the season. They're going to basically quarantine their crew there. And, like, I don't understand why Survivor can't, like, do something domestically for one season just to try and get themselves off the ground. Where if you're waiting for international travel restrictions to be restricted, they could be going potentially the entire year without a new season.
Gotcha. So they're not willing to adapt.
They are not willing to adapt. And I get that they get tax rebates in Fiji to film, but, like, there's a point where, like, you can't film a year in, like, Hawaii or something, or like the Virgin Islands off of Florida. So I think you have to be a little more flexible than they're being.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have everything set up in Fiji and they just don't want to move it. That's probably another reason.
Yeah, because what happened with them also is like they usually film their seasons back to back. So like the fall season, the spring season, they filmed them basically in a 4-month period in Fiji, then they leave. I think they had the pre-production set. They're about to fly the cast out right before the shutdown happened for season 41. Then they stopped and they've been on hold ever since. So right now, my hunch is they're going to try and wait it out and film season 41 in the fall, have it ready for spring 2021, which I think is a mistake. I think they could have filmed 2 seasons if they actually were committed to doing one in the United States.
I see your point.
Yeah. That's frustrating to me. Amazing Race is a different animal because it involves international travel. Like that show, not counting the one that's in the can, you're not seeing that again until you have some sort of vaccine.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is sad because I love that show, but it's a reality of the situation.
We all have to kind of like put our big boy pants on and just accept what is and what isn't at the moment. And that goes for sports as well and what may be with sports.
All right, Alan, thank you for all the time today. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can people follow you on social media and keep on some of the stuff you're up to?
Sure. It's Instagram at Allen, Allen, Austin, Austin sports. And Twitter is at Allen_Austin_. And you can watch the Alan Austin Show on YouTube. It's a sports comedy talk show. So check it out. I would greatly appreciate it. And Mike, thanks again for having me on. I always love coming on.